What's up, everybody? Welcome to Call to the Bullpen. I'm David Payne with Brad Zampar and Jimmy Miller. Let's play ball. You guys might notice Brad and I have a little caterpillar on our top lip for this episode. Bradley, do you want to start this thing off by kind of explaining how this came about?
So I guess in our chat for Call to the Bullpen, everybody who contributes, it was sent of Adley having a mustache for the new Top Gun movie that came out. So I decided to just say, like, oh, if he homers tonight, like, I'll rock the mustache. And next thing I know, Adley hits a 415-foot shot for his second homer of his career. So we've got the mustache for about another 5 days or so.
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't seen the new Top Gun. I haven't all the way through seen the first one, I don't think. But I've seen Adley play, and that's all I need to know that this is the move. So this is what we're going for, at least for this episode. We'll see if this turns into a more long-term thing. I'm kind of digging it. But let's start this thing with, it was a rough week for MVP candidates, specifically in the National League. Your two leading guys, really, in Manny Machado and Bryce Harper, both suffering injuries. Brad and I both had flashbacks to 2014 with Manny's. The second time that Manny Machado has gotten injured on first base, on a wet first base. And you'll hear a lot about how Manny Machado doesn't hustle and this and that about Machado. But when the guy has now slipped on the base twice and gotten injured twice that way, it's hard to blame a guy for not digging out every routine ground ball that he hits. It's like a PTSD flashbacks there with that. But on top of that, Bryce Harper takes a fastball up and in off of his thumb, and he's out with a broken thumb now. So the list of stars currently on the IL right now: Mookie Betts, Jacob deGrom, Fernando Tatis. Machado's making his comeback today, so we could take Machado off the list. He is good to go. But Max Scherzer, Salvador Perez, Ozzie Albies, Walker Buehler, Chris Sale, Steven Strasburg. The list goes on and on and on. So many of baseball stars missing time right now. And it's upsetting because I'm wearing the Bryce Harper jersey. He was on pace. I was pretty confident he was going to win back-to-back MVPs in his third this year. So that's really disheartening to see him go down. But I guess from the standpoint of one less person that Manny Machado has to win it over. For Manny to get his first MVP. But is there an injury from that list that really stands out to you guys as the most damning?
Yeah, it seems like whenever I turn around, Manny Machado is either accidentally stepping on the foot of Jesus Aguilar or slipping on the base. It seems like first base is something that is cause for concern for him. I'm happy that he's going to come back. I hope he stays healthy. You know, he's on a real historic pace hits-wise for his age. I think he's got 1,600 hits and he's 28, something crazy like that. I just hope he can stay healthy down the stretch, and it'd be cool to see him win an MVP.
Yeah, my big one would probably have to be Mookie Betts because he was starting to figure it out there. And the Dodgers have just been kind of struggling to stay afloat right now. Nobody's really going offensively. And then you lose your $300 million guy behind you. And it's going to be tough. And I guess originally they said it was supposed to be like a 2-week time frame. And then I guess Dave came out yesterday and said it's very optimistic. It's going to be a bit longer than that. So it's going to be tough for them to like just continue to build this year because they've already struggled a bit to an extent. And now you're going to have to do it without your leader. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, and just to showcase how good Mookie Betts has been, that's the leading vote getter in the National League right now for the All-Star. And we're going to touch on the All-Star stuff more next week. The July 4th episode, we're going to go through our All-Star ballots, all MLB midseason team. But that's your leading vote getter in the NL right now. So he's been a huge impact player. And when we get later in this episode to the power rankings, you're really going to see how not having Mookie Betts has impacted the Dodgers. But let's talk about the American League counterpart of the Dodgers, in my opinion, which is the New York Yankees, who we kind of agreed earlier in the season that this stretch of like 2 weeks here was going to be the make or break for them. And it was their first real challenging stretch. It had kind of been a Mickey Mouse schedule before that. And now they had their first real stretch there, Tampa, Houston, the Blue Jays, and they escaped that stretch 9-4, which is as good as you could really ask for. But 2 of those 9 wins were kind of like miracle Yankee Stadium comebacks. And Brad, you got to witness one of them, but they had gone, I believe it was 16 innings straight without a hit at one point. And that's, you came back and you won those games, and the win, of course, is important. That win column matters. But they were barely scraping by in those wins. That if those games are in Minute Maid, that's probably a 4-game Astros sweep. So it did expose some holes there. But I mean, they came out of the stretch as strong as they could have asked for. And I feel like kind of cemented themselves as the top team in the AL. As good as the Astros are, they found ways to win those games, use their ballpark to their advantage, and that's what good teams do. So, I mean, coming out of that, I'm feeling confident with them as the number 1 team in the AL. This was going to be the either expose them as frauds or show that they're really solid. And I don't see them as frauds after this. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to win every game with ease. As a Mets fan, I've seen them win a couple games this year, where they were down like 6 or 7 in the last inning and come back and win. So no matter how you win, wins are wins. You're going to have to win those, thrilling last inning, come from behind wins to make the playoffs. So it's not cause for concern. They're going to have their easy wins. They're going to have their blowout wins down the stretch. And the fact that they were able to go 9-4 over that stretch against tough teams proves to me that they're legit.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that they're easily considered the best team in the AL right now. One thing they did show, though, like you were saying, David, they are beatable. It's not like they're this amazing team that is not going to lose 40 games. They're not going to – I don't think they're going to break the Mariners record. And they've had too much of an easy schedule, and I think this team still has some correction of their record coming to them. But I think in the overall aspect, I would say they're easily the favorite in the AL.
Yeah, it's a long season, and they've had a lot of guys play superhuman, and that most of the time isn't going to hold up over 162. So I'm sure there is some sort of correction coming. Now let's hop over to their AL East rival, who started quite the opposite, started abysmally and have since corrected. And they have corrected their course and are actually playing fantastic right now. And it's the Boston Red Sox. And the question is, are the Red Sox the team that they are now, or are they the team at the start of the season? Which streak is the fluky streak? And for me, from the start, the Red Sox have been a good team. I think that they severely underperformed at the start of the year, but they're by no means a bad team. Bringing in Trevor Story this offseason made them a better team than they were last year, I think, which was a team that went to the American League Championship Series or Division Series, Championship Series. How far did they make it?
Championship.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So a really solid team there who just had a really bad start. I'm not even going to say like they got Chris Sale coming back because, we know Chris Sale's going to come back for a week and then he's going to be throwing 88 by the end of the week and shut down again because his lanky ass just can't manage to stay healthy. Just like Jacob deGrom. Don't give a smirk over there, Jim. We're looking at you too. But I think that they're a legit good team. I think that they are a move or two away at the deadline. They're not going to take the East, probably. The Yankees are just so far ahead, but we've seen the Red Sox have a monumental September collapse before and drop a 9-game lead in 1 month. So anything is possible in baseball. But I think that they're a high-seeded wild card team that has potential to make a deep run in the playoffs. That's where I'm at with them.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I think they're a legit team. I think what we're seeing out of them now is real. They kind of remind me of the Giants. I feel like you're going to know how they're going to play by June. They're either going to be a 90-win team or they're going to be a 70-win team. I kind of trust them to make moves at the deadline. And, yeah, I trust what I see. Rich Hill's been a good acquisition pitching-wise. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be a second-place team in that division. They're going to be pretty well seeded, and I think when they get in, they typically tend to go pretty far in the playoffs.
I'll put a bold statement out there right now. If they don't get Frankie Montas, they're not going to make the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know if these starting pitchers they have is going to hold up over this 162. I feel like Nick Pivetta is their ace right now with Evaldi on the shelf. You have any faith in Nick Pivetta to go out there in game one in Houston and throw up a decent 5-6 innings? I certainly wouldn't. And that's nothing to Nick Pivetta. It's just he's never pitched in a playoff game like that. You need another ace in there to solidify that rotation. And obviously Montas doesn't have a lot of playoff experience, but he's just simply a much better pitcher than the rest of their options right now.
Yeah, I think that the big deadline move does have to be a frontline arm because, like I said, you can't count on Chris Sale coming back and being healthy and being your ace. So I agree that they need to go make a move. I'm not going to, narrow it down to just one guy like that, but we're on the same page with the move that they have to make. Now, I just want to quickly touch on this because we'd be wrong if we didn't. One of the great baseball brawls of all time happened this week out in it was in Anaheim with the Angels and the Mariners. The day before, Mike Trout got a pitch up and in. I guess the Angels took exception to that and threw one at the back of Jesse Winker's knees, who then proceeded to go after Phil Nevin, the interim manager of the Angels, and a whole big brawl ensued, ended with 8 guys getting kicked out or something. An insane amount of guys getting kicked out. Guy full on punches being thrown, tackling guys. Julio Rodriguez was in there throwing haymakers. Shohei and Trout stayed as far away from the action as they could, which good. But this was like a crazy baseball brawl. Jesse Winker flipping the fans off afterwards. This was insane. And listen, I know people are like, oh, violence. We shouldn't condone violence. We shouldn't promote violence. There's kids watching. That shit's fun. That shit is fun when they fight. In hockey, it's fun when they fight. In baseball, it's fun when they fight. I would rather the guys settle a dispute with fists than with baseballs. Rather than throw at guys, which still happened in this situation. Listen, if you're throwing a baseball at me, I'm going to be pissed too. I'm probably going to want to throw hands as well. If you're going to throw a little ball, a 5-ounce ball at me, at 90 something miles an hour, there's some serious potential for injury there. Let's settle this thing, hand to hand. So I'd rather see the fist fights than the throwing at people. And I think it's exciting. I think let them go. Why not? But what do you guys make of this?
Yeah, I have no problem with the fighting on the field, but I feel like players are getting a bit too comfortable with, targeting fans. I think Winker has a history of, with the Mets fans, kind of giving them, booing them, giving them thumbs down. I just feel like keep it on the field. We've seen too much with last year with Baez and Lindor, and then TA with flipping the fans off. It's just I feel like players need to be a little more resilient and not let what fans say get to their heads and just keep it on the field because people pay good money to go to the games. I feel like no matter what they say, they should be targeted for that. Worse things have happened in the past. People used to throw food at the players in the field and stuff. I just feel like it's a different game now, and I feel like players need to go after players more than players need to go after fans. I think it's something we're starting to see and it needs to change.
Yeah, I knew that fight was going to be one of the best ones I ever saw when Rafael Iglesias came over the top of everybody and was just throwing absolute haymakers on people. Did not matter who it was. He was just throwing those things. I'm sure he'll probably get 10 games for that, but that was simply amazing. But in overall, I think that the fights there need to be more. I wouldn't say more fighting because I don't really want to say that, but it's good for the game that every once in a while there's the energy on both sides reaches a point where they have to come together and say things.
Yeah, and the haymakers weren't the only thing he was throwing. He ran out after the fight, ran out onto the field with a box full of sunflower seeds and just threw them onto the field. What was he trying to do there? All that happened was their own clubhouse staff probably had to go out there and pick those up off the field. That was the only person he hurt was the Angels staff that had to go clean that up. That was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen when he did that. But listen, man, if you're going to charge at the home team's manager and fight the entire home team, you're going to get booed after the fight, Jesse Winker. You know, what does he think? He's going to walk back into the dugout and the home crowd is going to cheer for him? And come on, keep the birds down. If anything, flip some birds towards the Angels dugout. I'm fine with that. But you're right. The fans are, of course, I'm going to boo a guy if we're at an Orioles game and somebody tries to fight the whole Orioles team. I'll boo the guy as he goes off the field too. So yeah, a little thicker skin with the fans there, but on the field, anything goes as far as I'm concerned. That wraps up the quick hits. Jimmy, MLB Players of the Week, take it away.
So AL Player of the Week, off to a very slow start, but has gotten hot, and Javi Baez of the Tigers. 11 hits, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, a 478 batting average, a 1044 slug, and a 1564 OPS. NL Player of the Week, beat up on his old team, Freddie Freeman of the Dodgers. 10 hits, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 417 average, even 500 OBP, and a 917 slug. AL Pitcher of the Week, let's see if we can make it back-to-back MVPs. Shohei Ohtani, the Angels. An 8-inning, no runs, 13 strikeout, 2 hit, 1 walk victory, 5-0 against the Royals on Wednesday. And NL Pitcher of the Week, Logan Webb of the Giants. Last week we had Rodon of the Giants, so back-to-back Giants. 2 quality starts, 13 innings pitched, just 1 earned run, 13 strikeouts, and a 77 whip. AL Rookie of the Week, J-Rod of the Mariners. 7 hits, 3 home runs, 5 RBI, a 680 slug, and a 1037 OPS. NL Rookie of the Week, Graham Ashcraft of the Reds. He had an 8-inning pitch, 2 earned run, 8 strikeouts without even allowing a walk in Friday's 4-2 win over the Giants.
That Giants rotation is really kind of the glue of that team. And so the back-to-back Pitcher of the Weeks there is a big part of why they are climbing. I wouldn't say they're climbing the power rankings based on how the past couple of weeks have gone, but they're staking their claim that they belong on the power rankings. Is in my opinion, on my end of the voting. So I got a seed stuck in my throat. I'm drinking a smoothie here. I got a seed stuck in my throat there. I can't talk anymore. Brett, go ahead.
AAA, we have Dalton Guthrie. He's with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, and he's an infielder. He's the son of Mark Guthrie, who was a pitcher for 15 years in the 90s and early 2000s. He's 26 years old. He was a 2017 6th-round pick out of Florida, and he's really gotten better every year. Of pro ball, his on-base percentage and OPS has gone up in each season. So him missing the 2020 minor league season really put a halt to his progress. But this past week, he was 11 for 22, scored 9 times, doubled twice, homered 3 times, drove in 11, slugged 1,000, and his OPS was a 1577. AA, it's Matt Wallner. He's an outfielder for the Wichita Wind Surge. He's 24 years old. He was a comp first-round pick in 2019, 39th overall out of Southern Miss. He's the 9th-ranked prospect in the Twin system, and he's really figured it out this year because he's turning his doubles into homers and he's turning his strikeouts into walks, which is a big progress for minor leaguers. This past week, he was 7 for 15, scored 8 times, doubled twice, homered 3 times, drove in 8. He walked 8 times and he struck out 4 times. His slugging percentage was a 1200 and his OPS was an 1852. On the high A level, it's Kennedy Corona. He's an outfielder from the Asherville Tourists, 22 years old, from Venezuela. He was signed by the Mets in 2019 and he was traded to Houston in the Jake Marisnick deal. That same year, he was 9 for 18 this past week, homered 3 times, drove in 11. Walked 7 times, struck out 3 times, slugged 1,000, and he had a 1625 OPS. And the low A level, it's going to be Carter Williams. He's an outfielder for the San Jose Giants, 24 years old. He was from North Carolina Central University, and he was undrafted and signed a free agent deal after the 21 draft with the Giants. He's not on their top 30, but this past week, he was 15 for 23, scored 9 times, doubled 6 times. Homered twice, drove in 10, walked 6 times, and he struck out 3 times. His slugging was an 1172, and his on-base OPS was an 1884.
Any relation to Orioles legend Jeremy Guthrie there?
No, I did look for the connection, but it's not there.
I remember that guy used to ride his bike into the ballpark. He was one of like the most accessible players at Oriole Park growing up.
Yep. This whole season, I've been promoting these two guys, and they're both going to win the opposite award this week. For the worst umpire this week, it was Pat Hobart. He did the game in Atlanta with the Giants in town on Wednesday. The Giants ended up losing that game 4-3. Pat had 3 horrendous calls. His most impactful calls during that game all happened in the 9th inning. But his overalls for the day he was actually up across the board on every single stat, 96%, 95, 99, and 92. But he did cost the Giants 1.5 runs, which is detrimental in a 1-run game. And our best umpire of the week, Angel Hernandez, simply put.
I thought he was banned.
He did the game Wednesday, and it was in Minnesota with the Guardians in town. And the score of that game was 11-10. His overall accuracy for the day, 96%. Consistency, 94%. Called ball accuracy was 99%. Called strike accuracy was an 87%. But his overall factor for the day was a plus 0.04 runs for the Twins in that game. I just feel like it's kind of crazy to have such a low impact when there's so many runs being scored. So I will give Angel the award this week.
That's fair, and I fully expect to see him as our worst umpire next week. Monday right now, I'm guessing whatever game that he does tonight is just going to be horrible, and it's going to be all over social media. And then this episode's going to come out tomorrow, and he's going to be the number one. And I just want to say that I told you this was going to happen. So you get to pick the umpires. That's how it's going to go.
I feel bad for him because he's like widely regarded as such like a nice guy too. It's too bad.
You always see him like taking pictures with fans and stuff. Like he seems very approachable, but whatever.
He's not good at his job.
He's not. But
right field, Oscar Gonzalez racing in, makes a shoestring catch, throws the plate. They got him! Man. Unbelievable double play! Holy Toledo! Line drive. Oh, play by Story to snatch that baby.
He's 2-0 here. Sends that ball to deep right field. And that will be caught by Tucker. King Tut saves at least.
For that last at bat against Jalen Peaks, my goodness. But so curious to see.
Whoa! Did he make the catch? He made the catch!
Unbelievable.
He just hit a tape measure.
2-1 to Stanton. Breaking ball, bounce left side, waiting on it. Bregman, he's got it. Throws across in time. A no-hitter in the block for the Houston Astros.
shout out Owen for those plays. Now we're going to Cooper with this week's MLB colorized photo of the week.
Welcome back to Photo of the Week. This week's picture is of Casey Stengel taking a photo of Joe DiMaggio during spring training. Stengel and DiMaggio would only work together for 3 years before DiMaggio's retirement, but in those 3 years, they worked a 293 and 169 record, winning 3 championships. DiMaggio's final years concluded a Hall of Fame career. In his final 3 years, he hit 58 home runs, tallied 260 RBIs with 244 hits. After the 1951 season, DiMaggio gave way to a young center fielder from Oklahoma named Mickey Mantle. Thanks, and back to the guys.
Shout out to Cooper for that baseball history lesson. Now we're going to the Power and Sour rankings. Power and Sour rankings are presented by Fit and Faded. Head to fit-faded.com and use code BULLPEN to get 15% off your order of athleisure wear, protein products, creatine, CBD products, whatever you need to promote cannabis as a fitness enthusiast. On the Sour rankings, number 5 is the Detroit Tigers. Number 4, Washington Nationals. Number 3, the Oakland A's. 2, I wrote down Nationals twice. 4 is the Cubs, guys. 5 Tigers, 4 Cubs, 3 A's, 2 Nats, 1 Reds. And then on the power ranking side of things, I gave you a little preview before about the Dodgers. They're not number 5. Number 5 is the San Diego Padres, but right above them, they've now fallen down from 1 to 4. They were 3 last week. 4 this week is the LA Dodgers. 3 after what I would consider to be a really good week in the Bronx is the Houston Astros. Still at number 2 is Jimmy's New York Mets. And the number 1 spot after that 9-4 stretch against really good teams, the Yankees are firmly in that number 1 spot. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Call to the Bullpen. We are doing a giveaway right now with Oh My Apparel. That's Out Hustle My Yesterday. That's what Oh My stands for. Giving away a cinch bag with some interchangeable patches on it. So you could check that out at CTBP Pod on social media. Just a couple easy steps to win, and we're going to be drawing that on the July 4th episode. Other than that, give us a follow on social media at CTBP Pod, at the David Payne, at Brad Zampar, at Jimmy_Miller4, and we'll see you all next week with that special July 4th All-Star edition of Call to the Bullpen.
Play ball.